Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're dissecting what is, honestly, one of the most misunderstood economic investments on the entire planet, hosting the FIFA World Cup. It's this incredible spectacle that captures the attention of literally billions of people. But right behind the roar of those crowds, well, there's a highly complex financial engine, one that frequently leaves host nations grappling with decades of debt. And that brings us to a really fascinating paradox, one that economists have been debating for years. Think about it. If rigorous, evidence-based studies repeatedly conclude that World Cups rarely, if ever, actually pay for themselves, why on earth do governments continue to fiercely bid against one another for the privilege? Are these countries just making a terrible financial mistake, or are economists simply measuring the wrong things? To really put this into perspective, let's look at Qatar. They spent an estimated $200 billion getting ready for the 2022 World Cup. $200 billion. That is an astronomical, almost unfathomable amount of money for what is basically a 4-week tournament. It totally forces us to ask, what exactly goes into a price tag like that? And maybe more importantly, who is actually cashing the checks when the month is over? So, in this explainer, we're going to break this all down. We'll cover 1. The mega event paradox. 2. FIFA's risk-free revenue model. 3. The economic impact myth. 4. Infrastructure and white elephants. 5. A tale of host nations. And 6. The true cost of prestige. Okay, let's dive right into Section 1, the mega events paradox. When we look at the historical data, the cost of hosting has just skyrocketed. Back in 1990, Italy spent roughly $4 billion. Fast forward to 2014, and Brazil's costs were approaching $20 billion, culminating, of course, in Qatar's unprecedented $200 billion investment. And this money isn't just paying for grass and goalposts. FIFA requires at least 8 to 10 completely modern stadiums, which basically forces nations to totally overhaul their airports, build high-speed railways, construct new hotels, and massively upgrade their security apparatuses. And to make matters worse, those initial budgets, they're pretty much never accurate. These mega projects systematically blow right past them. Take South Africa in 2010. Their initial stadium budget was $1.3 billion. But thanks to mismanagement and a bunch of inefficiencies, they faced a staggering 176% cost overrun, finalizing at around $3.6 billion. Brazil and Russia saw massive overruns too. Because of the sheer scale and the absolutely rigid deadline of a World Cup, host nations essentially lose all of their negotiating leverage with construction firms. Which leads us to Section 2, FIFA's risk-free revenue model. So while the host country is spending billions, FIFA actually controls the most scalable and reliable revenue streams. They pull in roughly $13 to $14 billion per cycle. This pie is heavily dominated by television broadcasting rights, cashing in on that massive synchronized global audience alongside huge corporate sponsorships. And here's the kicker. FIFA actually operates as a nonprofit, meaning, theoretically at least, this money is reinvested back into global football development. The crucial takeaway here is the hard, definitive line between the money earned by FIFA and the money earned by the host nation. FIFA takes the broadcast and sponsorship billions, and they bear relatively little financial risk doing it. The host nation, on the flip side, is left relying on localized, temporary revenues. A quick bump in hotel occupancy, some extra restaurant sales, local transit fares, all while carrying the massive infrastructural risk in the long-term debt. Let's move on to Section 3, the economic impact myth. Now, economists repeatedly find that World Cups underdeliver on their promises, and it really comes down to 2 fundamental concepts, crowding out and the substitution effect. Imagine you live in a host city. During the World Cup, are you going to go out to your favorite restaurant downtown? Probably not. You're going to avoid the insane traffic and the rowdy fans. So your regular spending is crowded out. Plus, regular tourists, the people who might have visited for the museums or the history, they stay away to avoid the high prices and the hassle. And as for locals buying World Cup tickets, if someone spends $1,000 on a match, they're generally just substituting money they would have spent anyway at the local cinema or bowling alley over the course of the year. Because of this, the illusion of profitability often hides right there in the accounting. Take a look at the 2010 South African Organizing Committee's income statement. On paper, revenues from ticketing and FIFA contributions slightly outpace the direct operational expenses. It looks like a nice, clean break-even. But what's completely omitted from that ledger are the billions and billions of dollars spent building the stadiums, the roads, and the rail lines in all the years prior. In fact, when we run rigorous post-event analyses, they tell a pretty sobering story. Consider the 1994 U.S. World Cup. It's widely remembered as a massive popular success, right? Record-breaking attendance. But ex-post economic modeling suggests that those host cities actually experience billions of dollars in cumulative economic losses compared to their normal expected growth trajectories. That completely contradicts the $4 billion gain that event boosters initially touted. That brings us to Section 4, infrastructure and white elephants. So what happens when the party ends? Many of these newly built venues become what economists refer to as white elephants. We're talking about massive, highly expensive structures that become drastically underutilized after the one-month carnival leaves town. They actively drain local municipal resources through high annual maintenance costs like security, upkeep, and power, while generating almost zero post-tournament revenue. Because let's be real, the local sports team simply can't fill an 80,000-seat arena on a regular Tuesday. The data really highlights the darker side of this whole building boom. Rushed megaprojects and inefficient planning create severe economic ripple effects. When governments are suddenly on the hook to cover massive cost overruns for a stadium, those huge capital injections have to come from somewhere. And very often, that means redirecting funds away from critical public goods. The human and opportunity costs here are incredibly real. Consider South Africa's Cape Town Stadium, which cost an estimated $530 million to build. Today, it hosts only a handful of events a year, leaving the local government to subsidize this giant, empty structure. And what about that highly promoted employment boom? Well, while stadium construction absolutely creates thousands of jobs, they are strictly temporary. Once that ribbon is cut, the jobs vanish, leaving communities saddled with inflated debt instead of, say, permanent job creation, new healthcare facilities, or lasting civic infrastructure. All right, Section 5, a tale of host nations. The historical data actually reveals a stark dichotomy between what we can call asset-light hosts and infrastructure-heavy hosts. Nations like the US back in 1994, Germany in 2006, and the upcoming 2026 North American tournament, they rely on existing, already paid-for stadiums. Consequently, they see vastly superior financial outcomes compared to nations like South Africa, Brazil, or Qatar, who were essentially forced into frantic nationwide construction booms just to meet FIFA's stringent requirements. Take Germany in 2006 as a prime example. Their existing tourism infrastructure, their efficient transit systems, and their world-class stadiums successfully absorbed 2 million additional foreign visitors. They didn't have to build a new country to host a tournament. They literally just opened their doors. This proves, without a doubt, that having existing capacity is the absolute key to capturing any real economic benefit without drowning in debt. Which leads to our final section, the true cost of prestige. If the financial returns are so weak, why do it? Well, the answer lies not in a corporate balance sheet, but in political economy. Governments view the World Cup not as a direct financial investment, but as a priceless exercise in soft power, national identity, and global prestige. It's an incredibly potent way to signal to the world that a nation has truly arrived on the global stage. Plus, for domestic politicians, cutting the ribbon on a gleaming new stadium creates a highly visible legacy project. It looks absolutely fantastic during an election cycle, even if the debt outlasts their term in office by decades. Ultimately, the objective data shows that the organizing body itself captures the lion's share of the commercial wealth. FIFA owns the broadcast rights and the global sponsorships, the highly scalable assets, while the host nation acts as the ultimate guarantor. The host bears all the massive infrastructural risks and the intense burden of executing a flawless global event. So we leave you with this final crucial thought to reflect on. When a country bets billions of taxpayer dollars on a single month of international glory, what is the true opportunity cost to its future? Could those billions have built new schools, state-of-the-art hospitals, or lasting transit systems instead? That is the real economics of the FIFA World Cup. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and I'll see you next time as we continue to unpack the fascinating systems that shape our world.